Chong. When you were Minister of Community Services, you showed a complete disregard for the wishes of the local citizens. Not only did you give away 28,000 hectares of our forests without compensation, you also sat on the bylaw changes that were put forward by the local communities. And by doing so, you allowed hundreds of development proposals to go forward that otherwise wouldn't have. My question is how can we trust you to look after our interests in the future?
Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much, Nick, because I really do appreciate the question, because I can provide you with some of the facts. And the facts are this. The lands that you talk about are private lands. They have always been private lands. They've been private lands with Western Forest Products for about 50 years. They were part of a tree farm license, and the legal rights have always been established that should the private owner wish to remove those lands, that they would be permitted to do so. Otherwise, they would have never allowed them to come into a tree farm license. So they are private lands, and they were removed. And they were removed after the professional forestry public service staff looked at the requirements and provided advice to the Minister of Forest. The second part of your question, which refers to a bylaw. When private lands are removed from the tree farm license, they will still be subject to zoning of the local government. And that local government happens to be the capital regional district. And what they need to put forward are bylaws for the ministry to consider. Those bylaws go right to the ministry staff, who are required as well legally to do their due diligence, to ensure that consultation has taken place with First Nations, to also include concerns heard by the community at large, and those most affected, which are some small parcel lot owners, about 300 of them, who live in the area. So what occurred was that the staff were looking at that information, ensuring all their work was done, their due diligence was done. They actually provided to me, back the bylaw to me, on a Monday morning on April the 14th at 9 o'clock. And within 2 hours after I reviewed that inch-and-a-half file, I had signed off on it. There was no delay, and I acted responsibly.
What made this deal so unprecedented was, and the deals that have been happening across the province, was that there was no compensation to the British Columbia people for the loss of these lands. This is unprecedented. There have been rare times in the past when TFL lands have been released, but they were always a compensation for us as citizens in the form of money. When the Auditor General examined this, he found that the government failed to consider the public interest. And many local Liberal MLAs remained silent about this. I'm a little at a loss, honestly. It's to think about the tens of thousands of hectares, because it's not just this 22,000 hectare parcel on the South Island, but it's tens of thousands more hectares across the province that are being given away in this kind of cavalier manner. It's something, it's wrong. So one of the things that Carol James has decided to do, and we shouldn't have to do it, but it's a terribly important part of the South Island, is to reacquire 12,000 hectares of those lands. So